Have you ever watched someone break not from grief, but from losing their grip on you? It's not dramatic at first. It's subtle. A shift in their eyes, the way their voice hardens. The silence becomes louder than words. The person who once knew how to get under your skin suddenly can't reach you anymore. And that terrifies them. Because the truth is, narcissists don't fear losing you. They fear losing their power over you. And when that power slips from their hands, their mask cracks. You're here because you've seen it. Or maybe you're seeing it now. That slow unraveling when someone realizes you're no longer afraid, no longer clinging to their approval. They don't know who they are without your pain. And when control is all they ever wanted, losing it feels like death. This video isn't about labeling anyone. It's not about theory or blame. It's about something deeper, something raw. The final stage. The moment a narcissist realizes they have lost control over someone they once used like a mirror, a sponge, a lifeline. This is where the truth lives, in the silence that follows. In the rage that erupts, in the desperation that shows you exactly who they've always been. We're going to walk through that final stage together, not with hate, not with bitterness, but with clarity, with softness, and with strength, because you deserve to understand the storm, not to be trapped in it. If you've ever whispered, "Why does this hurt even though I left?" If you've ever questioned your sanity when someone flipped the script on you, again and again. If you've ever stood in the wreckage of a relationship and thought, "Was any of it real?" Then you're not alone. Take a deep breath. This space is for you. We're going to unfold what happens when the narcissist has no more strings left to pull. When the last tactic fails. When the silence doesn't bring you crawling back. When their world built on your compliance begins to collapse. Let this video hold your hand, softly, like a friend who's seen too much but still chooses to believe in healing. Let it remind you of the power in reclaiming your voice, your time, your worth. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, not because I'm asking, but because this space was built for people like you. People who are ready to rise. People who are done shrinking. People who want their stories told without shame. Okay, you ready? Let's go in. They don't panic at first. When you begin to pull away, they pretend not to notice. They let you go quiet. They give you space. It's all part of the game. Because in their mind, they still have you. They're convinced you'll return. You always have, haven't you? That's how it begins, the final stage. They wait in silence, confident that the tension will break you, that you'll come crawling back, apologizing for needing too much, for speaking too loud, for asking to be treated like you matter. But something has shifted in you. This time, the silence isn't punishment, it's peace. And that peace, that's what they fear most. When they realize you're not reaching out, they move to the next tactic, the charm, the softness. They become the version of themselves you begged for. The one who listens, the one who remembers your favorite songs, the one who suddenly gets it. But here's the catch, none of it is real. It's a performance, rehearsed with perfect timing. The moment you react, the mask stays on. But if you don't, if you look at them and feel nothing, that's when the panic begins. Because now you're not just slipping away, you're becoming someone they can't control. They tell themselves you've changed, that you're cold, that you've been poisoned by outside voices. They blame your friends, your therapist, your boundaries, anything but themselves. Accountability is a language they refuse to speak. And as you grow quieter, they grow louder, desperate to stir the chaos that once kept you under their spell. Then comes the rage. It's not always yelling. Sometimes it's subtle gaslighting, guilt-tripping, rewriting history so convincingly you start to question your own memory. They'll say things like, "I never said that. You're being too sensitive. You used to be different. What happened to you?" Everyone thinks you're overreacting. They want you to doubt yourself, to doubt the clarity you fought so hard to earn. But deep down, they know. They feel it. The shift. The power balance breaking. And that terrifies them, because here's what they can't handle. Your indifference. You see, as long as you were angry, they still had control. As long as you were reacting, they still mattered. But when you go quiet, not out of fear, but out of peace, they lose their grip. And narcissists don't grieve like most people. They don't feel sorrow for the relationship. They grieve the collapse of their control. They panic because the mirror they once used to reflect their image, your love, your pain, your attention is gone. You're no longer their supply. You're not feeding the story they created about themselves. And without that, they crumble. They might try to hoover you back in messages out of nowhere, sudden kindness, reminders of the good times. But it's not love. It's possession dressed as sentiment. And if you fall for it, the cycle starts again. But if you don't, if you stay firm in your silence, that's when they unravel. You'll see the real them, not the charming mask, not the broken child you tried to fix, but the one who never truly saw you, never truly loved you. only needed you to survive. At this point, something eerie happens. They become a stranger, but not the kind that simply walks away. No, this stranger still knows the shape of your heart. They know what makes you ache, what makes you second guess, what soft spots they can poke to pull you back in. And now, with their controls slipping through their fingers like sand, they weaponize it. They'll tell others stories about you, half-truths laced with just enough detail to sound real. They become the victim in their own narrative, the one who tried everything, the one who gave so much and got nothing in return. And you become the villain, cold, unreasonable, broken. It hurts, doesn't it, to watch someone twist the truth you lived inside of, to know you screamed into pillows just to keep the peace, to remember how often you made yourself small just to avoid an explosion. And now, they paint you as the storm. But here's the thing, this is not about who they say you are, it's about who you're becoming. Because the very fact that they need to rewrite your story tells you something important. They can no longer write the ending. You took the pen back. Still, don't be surprised when they reach out again, but not with warmth. With fire, accusations, attacks, sudden anger out of nowhere. It's jarring, especially when you thought the silence meant it was finally over. But narcissists don't do closure, they do cycles. And when those cycles break, they panic. Because closure, for them, means defeat. It means you've outgrown them. And to someone who needs control to feel real, your healing becomes their threat. They'll try to undo it, sometimes with guilt. After everything I did for you, sometimes with fear. You'll never find someone who understands you like I did, sometimes with cruelty. No one will ever love you like I did, but you'll know, deep in your chest, beneath the noise and the doubt, something stronger has started to take root. A quiet knowing, a soft resistance, a version of you that doesn't need to prove anything anymore. That's when the final stage hits them hardest. Because this isn't just about losing you, it's about losing access to the one thing they could count on, your confusion. Now, you're clear. Now you're grounded. Now you see. And the more you see, the more transparent they become. The apologies that once worked feel empty. The tears feel rehearsed. The timing too perfect, too convenient. And you realize it was never about love. It was about control disguised as affection. Manipulation dressed in moments of tenderness. You tried. You gave. You broke yourself into pieces, hoping they'd finally see the whole you, but they never did. And now, you've stopped trying. That's the real loss for them, not your body, not your time, not even your love, but your willingness to keep playing a role that was killing you slowly. They sense it, and so they lash out one last time, one last storm to shake your walls. But you're not made of glass anymore. You've become something stronger. It's strange how quiet strength feels. You expect it to roar, to arrive with thunder and fury, but instead, it whispers. It settles into your bones like calm after a long cry. And when they come back, loud and desperate, you don't react. Not because you're trying to win, but because you're done playing. You don't pick up the phone when it rings at midnight. You don't explain yourself in long messages trying to prove your worth. You don't argue with their version of the story. You simply stop, and that silence becomes your shield. They'll notice. And not just notice, they'll panic. Because their reality is built on reaction, on knowing that one cruel word could unravel you. That one compliment could pull you back in. But now, those strings are cut. You're not dancing anymore. You're not shrinking. You're not bleeding just to keep the peace. They might push harder, accuse you of being heartless, of becoming someone else. And in a way, they're right. You have become someone else. Someone who no longer confuses chaos with love. Someone who no longer sees their worth through someone else's hunger. They hate that because your healing is their failure. And failure for them is unbearable. It forces them to confront the emptiness they've spent their lives avoiding. So, they lash out, not always loudly. Sometimes through silence so sharp it cuts deeper than words. Sometimes through mutual friends, through subtle digs online, through vague, bitter quotes that you know are about you. It's all the same pattern. Different tools, same desperate hands. But now, you see it. And you don't chase. You don't defend yourself to people who were never on your side. You don't beg to be understood by someone who never truly tried to understand you. You don't explain to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. Instead, you protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And while they spiral in confusion, wondering how their once favorite puppet cut the strings, you begin to live again, quietly, fully, in the small moments they never noticed. A slow morning, a song that makes you smile, the warmth of being safe in your own presence. You realize that healing doesn't mean it stops hurting. It just means the hurt no longer controls you. It no longer runs your days or ruins your nights. You carry the scars, yes, but they've become reminders not of pain, but of survival. And here's what's most painful to them now: your joy, because it exists without them. It exists despite them. It's not performative, it's not a lure, it's real. And they can't touch it, they can't recreate it, they can't take credit for it. You've become unreachable, not because you disappeared, but because you finally arrived. You came home to yourself, and they can't follow you there because where you're going, manipulation doesn't survive, guilt doesn't stick, fear doesn't win. You've grown too deep for shallow love. There's a moment when the dust settles, not all at once, but gradually, like a room that once echoed with shouting, now holding only the sound of your breath. You notice it when the weight on your chest begins to lift, when the world starts to feel a little less sharp, when you laugh and it doesn't feel like rebellion, but freedom. This is the stage they never prepared you for. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's yours, and they were never meant to be part of it. By now, they've tried it all: the anger, the guilt, the sweet apologies dripping with nostalgia. But none of it lands, because you're no longer reacting from the place that once bled for them. You're not operating from wounds. You're choosing from wisdom, and wisdom doesn't beg. They don't understand this new version of you. The one who doesn't flinch when they raise their voice. The one who doesn't crumble under their silence. The one who doesn't mistake suffering for loyalty. It shakes them, because the person you've become, the one who says no, who walks away, who stays silent when it costs less than explaining, is someone they can't recognize. They only knew how to dance with the broken you, the confused you, the one who made pain a home. But now, you've moved out. You're living in truth, in clarity, and most importantly, in choice. That's when the full collapse begins for them, because you weren't just a partner, or a friend, or someone they dated. You were the supply, the mirror, the stage. You played the role that held their world together. And now, the show is over. Curtain closed. Lights off. Audience gone. They're left in the silence they once weaponized. And silence, to someone who lives through control, feels like drowning. They may spiral, jumping from love bombing someone new to posting cryptic words they hope you'll see. They want you to hurt, to wonder, to miss them. But the part of you that once waited for their scraps is gone. You see their chaos for what it is: noise. You stop stalking their updates. Stop rereading old messages trying to find where it all broke. You stop blaming yourself, because you finally understand it didn't break because of you. It broke because it was never whole to begin with. They say you're heartless now, cold, changed, and they're right. You have changed, but not in the way they think. You're not cold. You're calm. You're not heartless. You've just placed your heart back in your own hands. You're not lost. You're finally home. And when you walk through the same streets, hear the same songs, see the same memories, there's no sting, just softness. Because the pain they caused no longer owns your body. You can think of them without flinching. You can remember the chaos without stepping back into it. And that is the moment they feared most. The moment you realize your life is better without them in it. Not because of revenge, but because of peace. Peace was never part of their plan for you. They didn't choose you because they loved you. They chose you because you felt familiar, open, kind, forgiving. The type to carry other people's pain and still offer them your heart in return. You were soft in a way the world rarely is. And they mistook that softness for weakness, but they were wrong. Because soft doesn't mean easy, and kind doesn't mean blind. And eventually you saw it. The patterns, the games, the way they left you starving and called it love. You started to ask different questions, not why won't they change, but why do I keep accepting this? And that question changed everything, because it turned the light back on. Not on them, but on you, on your patterns, on your pain, on the parts of you that believed you had to earn love, fix people, prove your worth by staying even when it hurt. They didn't expect that. They didn't expect you to stop fighting for their validation, to stop proving your love, to stop hoping they'd wake up and finally treat you like someone who mattered. They didn't expect you to walk away, not for good, but you did, maybe slowly at first. Emotionally, spiritually, then physically. With each step, their control weakened. And with each boundary you set, you reclaimed a piece of yourself. The pieces they tried to reshape, repaint, rewrite. Now, you own your story, and they can't touch it. That's what breaks them now. Not the silence, not even the separation, but the knowing that you see them. You really see them. And when someone like you, someone who once gave them everything, finally sees them for what they are, it strips them bare, because you're no longer their illusion. You're no longer a character in their performance. You've stepped out of the script. You're living unscripted, unbothered, unbeholden to their needs. And still they watch, not because they care, not in the way you hoped they would, but because they can't not watch. You were once their audience, and now you're the show. They scroll your updates, They ask mutual friends. They search for traces of you in other people, trying to replicate what they destroyed. But what you gave them wasn't a performance. It was real. Your love, your effort, your tears, your patience, and now they know they'll never find it again. Not because no one else will love them, but because no one else will let them take without giving. No one else will bleed themselves dry just to keep the peace. Only you did that, and only once. They may say they've moved on, that they're happy, that you meant nothing. But listen closely, none of it is said with peace. Because when someone truly moves on, they don't try to provoke or manipulate or hurt. They don't need an audience. They simply live. And you're doing just that, quietly, powerfully, without looking back. There's a freedom that comes when you stop needing closure from someone who was never honest to begin with. You realize they can't give you the truth, not because they're incapable of speaking it, but because they don't live in it. Their world is built on masks, half-truths, and mirrors. Everything is about reflection, how they appear, how they are seen, how they are admired. But you started seeking something deeper, something real, and that's when you became dangerous to them. Not loud, not vindictive, just done. The kind of done that doesn't need to slam doors or burn bridges. The kind of done that walks away quietly, with tears dried and head held steady. The kind of done that no longer asks, why did they do this to me? And starts asking, why did I allow it for so long? That question doesn't come easy. It cracks something open. Because now it's no longer about them, it's about you. Your healing, your patterns, the parts of you that were conditioned to chase approval, to feel responsible for someone else's emotions, to believe that being treated poorly was somehow normal. But you're awake now. And even when it's hard, even when the loneliness creeps in, you don't go back. Because going back means abandoning yourself again. And you've done that enough times to know how much it costs. They still linger, in small ways. A song, a street corner, a scent in the air. But those moments no longer pull you under. You feel them, and then they pass. Like weather, they might resurface. They usually do. A message out of nowhere. A friendly check-in, a reminder of something only the two of you shared. It's never random, it's calculated. They want to know if the door is still cracked open, if they still have access, if you still remember the version of them that could almost feel like love, but you don't reply. Or if you do, it's clear, boundaried, neutral, and that drives them mad, because they no longer get to dictate the rhythm of your emotions. They can't press buttons that no longer exist. The emotional levers are gone. You've pulled them out, one by one. They're left to rage in silence, or move on to someone new. And if they do, they'll make sure you know. Not because they're happy, but because they want you to question whether you ever mattered. That's their last card, doubt. But here's your truth now. You did matter. You were real. You loved hard. You stayed too long. You believed. You gave chances, grace, empathy until it drained you. And that says nothing bad about you. In fact, it proves everything good. You were never the problem. Your capacity for love, for forgiveness, for hope that was never weakness. It was misused, exploited, played against you, but not anymore. Now, that love belongs to someone else, to you, and when that love turns inward, everything changes. You start showing up for yourself the way you once showed up for them. You start saying no without guilt. You rest without shame. You cry without apology. You learn how to sit with the ache without calling it your identity. You realize healing isn't becoming someone new, it's remembering who you were before the world taught you to be small. It's a quiet homecoming, no fireworks, no finish line, just breath, stillness. Moments where you catch your reflection and no longer see someone trying to be enough but someone who is. They don't understand that kind of healing. They were never looking for wholeness, just attention, obedience, adoration. But you started asking for more truth, more accountability, more depth, and when they couldn't meet you there, they made you feel like you were asking for too much. You weren't. You were just finally asking for what you deserved, and now, you'll never unsee it. You'll never settle for the bare minimum. You'll never confuse breadcrumbs with nourishment again. Because once you taste peace, chaos loses its flavor. They may still try. Months later, even years, a message, a coincidence, a mutual friend bringing up their name, and your heart might flutter not out of longing, but out of memory. But you'll breathe through it. You'll smile at the version of you who once didn't know better. And then you'll keep walking, because you've outgrown the illusion. You've outgrown relationships where you're the only one doing the work. You've outgrown dynamics where love feels like survival. You've outgrown the idea that being needed is the same as being loved. Now, you want more. And not just more, but different. Real. Sacred. Soft in a way that doesn't cut. Love that holds, not traps. Connection that breathes. That's the gift they didn't expect to give you. In trying to break you, they woke you up. In trying to control you, they taught you how precious your freedom is. In trying to silence you, they showed you the power of your voice. They built a prison, and in escaping it, you found yourself. So when people ask you, why didn't you leave sooner? You won't shame yourself. You'll smile gently and say, because I had to become the person who knew how, and now you are. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're just no longer available for anything less than truth. That's what healing looks like. Not perfection, not constant happiness, just honesty. With yourself, with others, with your past. You survived something most people can't name. Emotional warfare dressed up as intimacy. Control that looked like love. You walked through it, and you came out with your soul intact. Now you carry wisdom, the kind that can't be taught in books or therapy sessions. The kind earned through fire. And with it, you protect yourself not with walls, but with standards. With softness that has boundaries. With peace that won't be disturbed. And they'll always remember you, not as the one who got away, but as the one who woke up. There's no final revenge quite like living well. Not to hurt them, not to prove anything. Just because your joy no longer needs to be approved, earned, or explained. You rise not in noise, but in quiet moments. You rise in how you care for yourself. In how you choose people who see you clearly. In how you no longer chase after love that runs. In how you say no, and mean it. In how you walk away without turning back. That's the part they never believed you'd reach. They thought you'd always come back. Because you always did. Until the day you didn't. And maybe they'll spend years convincing themselves it was your fault. That you were too much. Too emotional. Too distant. But deep down, they know. They know they had someone rare. Someone who would have stayed forever. If only they'd been treated with care. But they didn't know how to hold something real. Not because you were hard to love, but because real love requires accountability. And they were never built for that. So now, they haunt themselves. With what-ifs, with could-have-beens, with new people who will never be you. But none of that is your burden to carry. You've carried enough. You're no longer stitching yourself together after every conversation. You're not writing apology messages for having needs. You're not measuring your worth by someone else's comfort. You're free, and freedom isn't loud. It's you. Brushing your teeth at night without crying. It's you. Sleeping deeply without checking your phone. It's you. Laughing without wondering if it's allowed. It's you. Remembering what it feels like to be loved without strings. You know now real love doesn't twist you. It doesn't hollow you out. It doesn't leave you bleeding and call it passion. Real love is steady. It holds without gripping. It listens without punishing. It lets you be exactly who you are and still chooses you without games. And maybe one day you'll meet that love. Or maybe, more beautifully, you'll be that love to yourself first. You'll keep choosing peace. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are now. And if they ever cross your mind, if you ever wonder whether they've changed, whether they finally understood what they lost, just breathe. Let it pass. Not because it didn't matter. It did, but because you matter more. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of a life that's finally yours. One honest step at a time. And if this held something for you, if it made you feel seen, heard, steady in a world that once shook your ground, stay close. You don't have to heal alone. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Let them know they're not alone either. You're not broken, you're becoming.